Immigration taking center stage on Capitol Hill this week as President Trump holds a critical meeting with Senate decision makers today, where the big issue will be the border wall.
That's the Democrats' law. We can change it tonight. We can change it right now. We need a wall. We need border security. We got to get rid of catch and release. You catch a criminal, you take his name, you release him, and he never shows up again. He goes into our society.
So with several major pieces to this puzzle still needing to fall into place, where should the president start? Joining me now is the Director of Policy Studies for the Center for Immigration Studies, Jessica Vaughan. Thank you so much for joining us, Jessica. We appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so you say this is a pretty sticky situation for both the president and House Republicans. Why so?
Well, you've got this one bill that House Republicans have been working on for years now, the so-called Goodlatte bill, that accomplishes the president's agenda and more. It's what the majority of Republicans in the House want to see happen. It fixes the border security problems, interior enforcement, sanctuaries, addresses illegal employment through E-Verify. It reduces chain migration and does an amnesty for the people with DACA. Then the Paul Ryan enters the picture and waters down some of the calls it the compromise bill, which only a small handful of Republicans support, but they were the ones who were pushing this discharge petition, this small group of Republicans that are kind of outliers and in favor of more immigration. They convinced Paul Ryan to water it down and add all these provisions for guest workers and the employers who've literally been replacing Americans for decades with guest workers. They add them to the amnesty and water down the enforcement and border provisions. So it's unclear whether they're going to be able to figure out how to satisfy all these interests. Right. So now today the president is coming in, and what he should be doing is making sure that the enforcement provisions stay in there, that the amnesty is limited, and frankly, this is not the time to deal with guest worker programs at all. And adding them in at the last minute makes no sense, and that's going to lose the majority of Republicans, not to mention the Americans who have to vote for members of Congress come November.
Yeah, and we do know this is what the president tweeted just yesterday, Sunday. He said the Democrats should get together with their Republican counterparts and work something out on border security and safety. Don't wait until after the election, because you're going to lose. Of course, in reference to a lot of folks saying that, not only just Democrats, but Republicans also holding on to this to use for the elections, the midterm elections specifically moving forward, and with Democrats saying that they have, no other issue to stand on right now. One other thing I wanted to say to you is that I guess during an interview with us on Friday, the president said that he would not support this more moderate one moving forward, being, of course, the one that is supported by Paul Ryan. So what do you expect in terms of what the president will do today? Like, why have this meeting? Is there an area that he thinks that they can specifically compromise on?
Well, that's, I think, what he's going to have to talk through with these Republicans, and I hope we'll also reassure them of what's needed. We still have this festering crisis at the border with families and children coming across illegally, and these bills would deal with that. And the Democrats have been complaining about that, for the last couple of weeks. But, if they sign on to one of these bills, they could fix that. But I hope the president is going to make it clear that, this is not the time to be throwing in all these extraneous provisions for guest workers. Stick to the 4 pillars that they all agreed on a few months ago of ending chain migration, the border wall, enforcement, and a limited solution for the people with DACA. And that's what will get them over the finish line.
Why would Paul Ryan be throwing that in at the last minute, these guest workers? Because what you're saying makes perfect sense. So why do that at this late date?
Well, he's a lame duck speaker now, and so I'm sure that he is responding to the many lobbyists for these big employers who are constantly bombarding his office to try to get breaks on bills like this. This is how, kind of classic backroom dealing for legislation that doesn't always have the best result for the American people.
Got it. Got it. All right. Jessica Vaughan joining us this morning. Thank you so much. We always appreciate your insight.